Hello, Janksters, and welcome to another edition of the MagicJank podcast, the weekly show where members of Team MagicJank get together on some day of the week, and we talk about whatever happened in the wonderful world of magic. It's the joy of having this kind of rotating cast. We're always trying to mix it up. And anyway, thank you all for understanding. We appreciate it. My name's Graham, go by HamHawks42 on the internet, and I've got some lovely co-hosts today. Very excited. Kicking things off, we got Carlos C. Fairverdo Jr. How's it going, man?
Hello, everybody. Good to see you.
And then we also have our limited guru, Headology Magic, in the house. Headology, how you doing? Welcome.
Hello.
So here we are. It's Modern Horizons 3. It's like, as we're recording this, it's the release day for Modern Horizons 3. It's happening.
Sure.
We're here, everybody. It's on Arena. And we also, all of us did participate in the early access event last week, so we have some experience with the set at this point. And the main goal for today is to talk through kind of our first impressions, right? I mean, obviously, this may be a short one because we all need to go, get some more drafts in because that's where we are. But yeah, so far, kind of our impressions on the set, and I'm just gonna kick it off, just right out of the gate. Kick it off. I'm gonna kick it to you guys. So far, what were, as far as constructed is concerned? So maybe this is more of a question for Carlo to get things started. What are we thinking as far as archetypes? Is this set going to shake up as many formats as we kind of thought going into this? And what are your first impressions? So just wherever you want to start, take it away.
Yeah, so we had the Arena Early Access on Wednesday. On that Friday, we had the Magic Online Early Access for the ability to do, like Modern, Legacy, drafts as well on there. A lot of folks were mostly playing like Modern and drafting. And I chose to go with Modern for my portion of the early access because I did limited on Wednesday and on Arena, and I got to play a couple cool Modern decks. A lot with the newer cards, because the purpose of early access is to try to show off the newer cards and see if they have an impact. Probably my favorite deck played of the day, for sure, was a version of Tron featuring our new Eldrazi Overlords. I did get to play with the new Kozilek and Ulamog and Emrakul, in addition to some old favorites, like Karn the Great Creator and One Ring, because, of course, why not? Just to see how they would fit in a shell. It did not disappoint. I most certainly got to cast, like, a 10-mana Ulamog, and, it'd be like a 20-something on, like, turn 4 or 5. Emrakul, all the time, costs 12 for me to be able to cast, but no problem. We got Urzatron lands. We can cast this early, gain control of all opponents' creatures, and attack. So that was certainly something fun to do. Kozilek, the new Kozilek, was a little underwhelming in that particular build, but the Ulamog definitely showed up and showed out, and it did exactly what I wanted it to do.
Sweet.
So yeah, I got to play that. I also played a blue-red like sort of control deck. But it took advantage of the new Tamiyo Inquisitive student, and fun fact, Tamiyo is a wizard, and the reason that matters in Modern is because I can play from the Lord of the Rings set, Flame of Anor, which lets me get 2 modes if I control a wizard. Most of the time this Tamiyo was just attacking, it was putting a clue token into play. It was very rare that I actually flipped Tamiyo, so we got off enough synergy with like lightning bolts and being able to play Sink into Stupor, which is an uncommon from Modern Horizons 3, which is great. And good old Snapcaster, Lightning Bolt, Snapcaster, Flame of Anor type of thing. Snapcaster, Sink into Stupor. It was pretty fun. It was a good time.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. And so we got to play with that a little bit. And then the third deck that I tried out was a Affinity deck, because I used to play Affinity back in the day, and we got to take advantage of Kappa Cannoneer, probably one of the best commander cards to get printed into Modern. This card was relatively unbeatable when it hit the board, and I don't know how it has Ward 4, so yeah.
It looks like it was made for Modern. This is like, it's like Artifact Murktide almost, and it's like the idea that it was a commander card is like, it kind of blows my mind. Yeah.
Exactly. And, I was playing a version that was also taking advantage of Simulacrum Synthesizer. Because that card is silly. And also, I got to play 4 of Kozilek's Unsealing in this deck, which basically turned a Frogmite into free creature, draw 3, because that's necessary. Or free creature, get tokens, and then play my 7-mana Frogmere Enforcer, and then draw 3 cards. Thought Monitor was a draw 5 cards for 1 blue. So we got to do this. I didn't play like the version with like Thought Cast on top of that. Some folks did. But we were having fun, and believe it or not, actually one of the all-stars of this deck was Lava Spur Boots, as a one-of that you could get off of Urza's Saga. So that was a fun time. So all in all,
Did not expect that. I got to be honest.
Yeah, I got wrecked by a lot of decks, and it's fine. Probably the favorite deck I got wrecked by, Caleb D was playing a red-green Eldrazi, like, aggressive deck, with the 3-mana Eldrazi that pumps a creature plus X+O for the Eldrazi's you have and gives it haste.
The rare.
Yeah,
I have that
and also
unlimited.
playing the Myco 4-mana, it's like sowing something. And anyway, when you kick it, it exiles one of your opponent's lands, and then it gets a land and puts it in the play tapped. Also a rare. So, playing like those types of
Linebreaker
cards.
is the one you were talking about, the rare.
Yes, the Linebreaker.
Yes, that's the one. Mm-hmm. Oh, man. Card's nasty.
So, those were great cards to play against. I definitely want to try that out because, first of all, those cards were amazing in Limited and equally as amazing in Modern. And we've talked about before on the podcast, the old Eldrazi aggro deck that used to be around in Modern with Eldrazi Obligator and stuff. And, this doesn't disappoint. That is a similar type of build that used to exist there. And it's interesting that it was doing pretty well during the early access leagues. That was my experience playing Modern. I know we're going to include the links below if you want to check out the 3 different decks that I played. I made a little Twitter post, and you can check out each image, and you can download the text from the alt text if that's your thing, and grab a hold of all of those lists.
Love it. I'm glad to hear the Modern portion, on MTGO was fun. And I love the fact that Caleb was playing, the Eldrazi aggro deck, because actually I got paired against him in Timeless during the arena portion of the early access event. And he was playing a similar build using Eldrazi Linebreaker and a couple of those other things. And it was one of those aggro decks where at first you're like, okay, this is going to be fine. I think I'll be all right. And then before you know it, it's turn 3 and you're looking down like 12 damage or something crazy. And it's like, how did this happen? Yeah. It's pretty nuts. Yeah. So it looks like a good setup. Yeah. No, that's awesome. And you touched on a couple of cards that I know I played a little bit during, my Timeless endeavors, and they were shockingly powerful. Like Kozilek's Unsealing is absolutely insane. And I was using it alongside Null Drifter, which
sure.
I did not appreciate how good Null Drifter was. Like I was actually on record as kind of poo-pooing Null Drifter a little bit.
Know how good Null Drifter was?
I didn't. Hey, I'm willing. I ate some. I'm happy to eat some crow on this one. I can eat my words.
Null Drifter is in cubes.
I see that now. I get it.
Better than Mull Drifter.
I suppose it is. I really thought it wasn't because of the ETB synergies on Mull Drifter. So, whereas, this, you can't you can't ephemerate this for value. How good could it really be? Yeah, no, it's real good. It's real good.
Turns out you put Annihilator 1 on a flyer and all of a sudden it's great.
I mean, yeah. Because, as far as Limited is concerned, you got a 4/4 flyer Annihilator 1. It's like, okay, that rules. And then, I didn't really appreciate that the Evoke can trigger all the 7-mana plus stuff from this set. So,
that's the key.
With Null Drifter and Kozilek's Unsealing down, you're drawing 5, just like we were doing with the Thought Monitor. Same story for 3 mana, which that deck has no problem getting to. It's So anyway, this card has impressed. I'm willing to retract my previous statements on this one, and that's okay. Hey, when you're trying to analyze so many cards, I'm about to get some of these wrong, but yeah, so. That kind of stuff. And I do think the Eldrazi in this set have the potential to be something. All the right pieces are there. And the big one that, for me, that I definitely want to talk about is Ugin's Labyrinth. If I spell this correctly, that would help a lot for the folks on the video. Yeah. Ugin's Labyrinth, the Soul Land we talked a lot about it in the weeks coming up to it, so I'll keep it brief. Holy cow, yes, absolutely. It does the thing. It's exactly as good as we thought it was going to be. Yeah.
Turns out if you can protect your big mana Eldrazi underneath the Labyrinth and protect it from like Thoughtseize or discard effects, and then happen to tap the Labyrinth to get your creature back from exile, to play it on the same turn you have enough mana to do so. Pretty good.
Yeah. Well, and Kozilek's Unsealing is a card that costs 3, and so it's easy to look at that and go, like, is it really that good? Well, when you're casting it on turn 2, yeah, it's pretty great. So, yeah, and the Labyrinth tees that kind of stuff up. So, yeah, I do genuinely think that the Eldrazi deck is going to be something. And, yeah, all the Titans look fantastic if you can cast them. I did manage to put New Emrakul on the stack a couple of times. Actually, I built a couple of decks to leverage the Madness cost, and when she hit the stack, it was GG's almost every time. I mean, that card is insane. At least in my experience in Timeless and with a little bit of Historic. Like, that's where I'm coming from with that. Yeah. And it was during early access, so who knows? You know, it's kind of a weird meta that we're kind of experimenting with these cards in. So we'll see if it shakes out, but the top end kind of stopping power is very real. So, yeah. It's exciting.
I tried to play a couple games of Timeless during the early access event on Arena, and every time I queued up, somebody was just playing Grief Scam, and I was like, this is not why
that was 100%. Yep. No, 100%. Well, and it was in a weird spot too, and I had the same experience in the Timeless ladder. Grief Scam was about every other game. And some people were doing like Grief Scam, but they also used a bunch of the other cards to follow it up. And like, okay, fine, fair enough. Like, you know, you're doing the thing. But there were a couple of people who were like, it was just the Rakdos mid-range list with Bowmaster's Fables and whatnot.
Right. But
they also added the Grief Scam package. And it's like, yes, this is technically a new card to Arena, but did we need to find out that was going to be good? Like, come on, guys.
Right.
So, yeah. So, no, I gotcha. It was a thing, which is why I actually have a deck that's all. I have a grief-proof deck that I can't wait to bust out against folks because I know on the ladder, on the Timeless ladder, it's going to be that deck. So it's all like rampaging or not rampaging. It's all Baloths and the Ferex that all like to be discarded. Like 100%.
Isn't there like Loxodon as well?
Is there a discard?
Oh, Loxodon Smiter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Green white. Yeah.
Okay, I need to put that in there. But I have like yeah. That's amazing. But yeah, I have like Orvar and like all the cards that want to be in the graveyard. So it's just all of those. Yeah. And so the idea is I want to get double griefed and have them just look at my hand and go, well, crap. You know. Anyway. It's the dumbest meme and I can't wait to bust it out.
Someone posted it on Twitter about like, you want to Thoughtseize me or you want to grief me? I promise the grief will be yours.
That's right.
I love that. Yeah.
They didn't say that. I said that, but they were just like living the dream, right? The magic dream. And they just had a handful of Baloths and other things. and the opponent had like a Thoughtseize on the stack or something. It was great.
Yeah. If you've never had that moment where your opponent looks at your hand, sees the Nullhide Ferox and goes 6/6, oh no, and like you have to discard, you know, and force you to discard that to like a Thought Erasure or a Thoughtseize. Oh, it's the best feeling because that particular card also has an animation on Arena, and it's just so satisfying to watch this just big dumpy bear monster looking thing just like pop up out of the card, be like, hey, what's up? I'm here. It's just like, yep, let's go.
And hey, listen, even at the regional championship in Dallas, it was standard. People were expecting to play against Liliana the Veil, and there were blue-white decks playing Baloth in their sideboard. They can't cast Baloth, but they just boarded it in against Liliana the Veil to not die.
To discard. For value.
Rules. Fantastic. Yeah, Obstinate Baloth. Let's get after it, everybody. Anyway, yeah. Fantastic. But yeah, so no, the Grief Scam, very real. It is the new card to Arena. So if you're playing in Timeless in the next forever, expect that to be a thing. That is just I was about to say like the next few weeks, that's just here to stay. That's just gonna be one of the decks from now on.
And also remember, if you enjoy playing Historic, they did ban like 18 cards from Modern Horizons 3 from being able to play in that format.
They sure did.
Them too strong, including the elementals. Surprise!
Yeah, all the evoke elementals, and because they keep telling everyone that they really they make it abundantly clear that touching lands isn't okay. Harbinger of the Seas also got the ban. So fish players, historic is not the place to be, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So
Not your format.
Nope, apparently not. They're like, can we just have spreading seas? Absolutely not. And I'm sure a bunch of people were like, oh, thank goodness we got Harbinger of the Seas coming. Nope. Like, oh man. Yeah. In Timeless though, yeah, Timeless and Brawl go crazy, but outside of that, no dice. Yeah. Anyway, good stuff. So yeah, I'm excited. Bottom line, and I know we have a ton of limited stuff to talk about, but we also, we're just coming off of pre-release weekend, so people are getting their hands on these cards in paper for the first time, and so quality control when it comes to printing. We've known of issues in the past, right? We cardboard quality issues coming from various printers has just been a topic of discussion for years now. It just is what it is. It comes and goes. But we have a new one. So if double-faced misprints was on your bingo card, congratulations, you can cross that one off. Because now we actually have people coming in, people reporting that they are finding some of the double-faced cards where the front and the back are literally misaligned. And I don't mean like misaligned on the sheet, like they're miscut, but they literally have the wrong card back. Like the back is in line with a literal different card. So we saw one, there's one post on Reddit where someone had a Legion leadership as the front, and then the Bogart Bog was on the back. Like, I'm not 100% sure what collation error or like what alignment, how the sheets were misaligned for this to happen, but here we are.
If that one's misprinted, that whole sheet's
they occur, they'll be worth something.
Yeah.
Well, are they going to be worth something, or is this kind of a misprint? I mean, misprints are worth something when they're rare, right? Yeah.
So the worst Wizards is at this. Yeah. Ironically, the worse it is for collectors.
Right? Yeah. There was a time when you got a miscut, it was a big deal.
Wizards
Now it's
a really bad job at this. You won't make any money as a collector getting one of these.
Yep.
If Wizards
it'll just be a fun oddity,
like actually doing its job, then. However, if Wizards is better at doing its job, and these are very rare, which doesn't sound like if many people are reporting. If it's rare, then you'll make money because, again, that's what matters to collectors of misprints is that they are infrequent. They're infrequently encountered.
Right. But if there's, my assumption with this is that some vendor got like an entire sheet where they associated the wrong image, the wrong back image to the whole thing is my guess. So, are there hundreds, thousands of these running around out there? It can't be all of them because there's no way that would have made it through QA. Yeah. But, is there one batch that got printed from one particular printer?
Would have printed it incorrectly and then cut it up, packaged it up, sent it out. And it might have been a whole set of, stuff. So there might be, a pallet of boxes like this. But I don't know how frequently that would have occurred. If it's a single printer and all of the proofs or whatever that they're printing from have this, correlation, this card front to this card back incorrectly, then you could see many, many pallets of this go out incorrectly. So it depends on whether it was just sort of one false batch or a whole printer getting the wrong information.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Because I'm surprised that they actually went to print, but here we are, Hopefully it's an isolated incident. Hopefully there aren't too many of these so that, people who do crack one can, hopefully get a couple bucks for it or, have a fun little oddity to show their friends.
Because they won't be able to play them in competitive events.
I'd imagine not, right? Yeah.
Nope. They'll be able to play the card. The front side will be as it is, but the back side will be as it would be on a normal card.
Right. So they would have to treat the back as though
you won't be able to say, "Oh, I get a bog."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you can't have some Mardu deck and cheat out a black, land.
The
when
worry
is,
would be
yeah.
that you somehow take out the card, because you got to play the flip side. You take out the card from the case, hiding the front, and you get the bog.
Yeah,
I
like I
doubt
know
there's any situation in which somebody would want to have a white red card and the black land on the back, but it's possible. I doubt it.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a lot of work to go through to cheat.
Yeah, and I think most people, yeah, exactly. I think you're probably right. They would probably want the colors of the front spell if they're running it in that deck, and
mainly
so they'd
because
probably
it's
be
two
more likely to
colors
like
rather than just one.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, they'd probably be more likely to put the land down and be like, by the way, it was actually, and just pull it out of the sleeve to show the front. Like, yeah, this is a weird misprint. Don't tell you. I wonder if any alter artists are going to have fun kind of doing custom versions of the correct card on the, on the backside. That could be fun. Anyway, so, but yeah, so that's a new thing. That's
that is a new thing. So
that's
that
a new
happened.
one. I've seen a lot of misprint discussion, but that's a new one for me. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah. And yeah, we'll definitely include the link to the kind of to the article with the original post showing that off. So if y'all want to dig deeper and kind of see what other examples of that are out there, those are there. So yeah. So the other thing that I definitely wanted to touch on before we because again, this is going to be probably a shorter show, but limited. Because a lot of people are diving into drafts and seals right now. Because I don't know about anybody else out there, but I definitely picked up a couple of draft tokens on Arena because this set looks insane and I want to get it. And I have a feeling we're not alone. So as far as Modern Horizons 3 Limited is concerned, what have been your guys' experience so far?
Well, tell us about what you learned from your draft on early access.
Sure. So at this point, I've done two. I did one sealed, and then during early access, I did one draft. And I got to during early access, I did one draft, and I got to retire undefeated with a clean 7-0 against some actually really good drafters, if I may say. I got very lucky a number of times, including our buddy Isaiah. Actually, he and I got paired up against each other, and it was delightful. And I can say confidently that Golgari aggro is legit in this limited environment. I had a ton of fun with it because there are so many cards that produce spawn, those 0-1 spawn tokens, and then other cards that can boost them in one way or another. And so I just drafted a deck. I got 2 spawn gang commanders, which are the siege gang commanders that produce spawn, and just a ton of ways to boost them. And it was...
You mean Gruul instead of Golgari?
I did mean Gruul, yes. It was Gruul.
Just checking.
It was. Yeah. I said Golgari because that's where my head is 90% of the time.
Because the Golgari
no, that was not what this
is
one
an
was.
interesting...
Golgari would yes,
later.
And I want to hear your thoughts on that later. But yes, as far as Gruul is concerned, it's it's shockingly strong, and it's also very straightforward. You just put a lot of power on the board with a lot of just really solid, just really solid pieces. I mean, commons like the Eldrazi Repurposer, 3/3 for 3. It makes a spawn on the way in and when it dies. And so you just put an extra material on the board. It's also helping you ramp to get to some of the other big pieces. It just sort of was the part of the glue that held the whole thing together. It just did the thing. Which also, in this world of play boosters, can we appreciate that just like roleplay commons still work? That makes me happy. They're way better than they used to be, but still, there was a time when that would have been a vanilla 3/3 and we would have been happy with it, doggone it. But yeah. But the other one that overperformed for me was Propagator Drone. This little 2-drop, if you're producing spawn in any way, giving them evolve, if you're not familiar with that keyword, it's whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, if its power or toughness is larger than the creature with evolve, it just gets a counter. So those 0-1s they become 1-2s pretty much for free the moment any other creature shows up, and they can become 2-3s very easily as well. So I had a ton of fun with that, and this little 2-drop uncommon put in some work for me. So yeah, all in all, I gotta say I was incredibly impressed with that archetype, to the point where when I played my first sealed pool on Arena, earlier today as we're recording this on a release day, I kind of forced the exact same deck and went 7-1. So there's something to it, I swear. So I don't know if I can draft any other archetype, but I don't care. As long as Gruul's available, I'm taking it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely I drafted a Gruul Eldrazi deck.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Void Pouncer was very good for me. You know, whether or not you can kick that, I mean, solid 3/1 for 2 is fine, but if you can kick it, it enters as a 5/3 and with trample. So, you know, it's good like early or late, or at least in my opinion, my experience.
Oh, heck yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and you mentioned it, like cards like Spawn Gang Commander. I mean, being able to jump from 5 mana to 9 mana to cast like some big Eldrazi maybe that you drafted. I will say that I drafted the Kindred enchantment more than once. I think it's called Echoes of Eternity. It's
Ooh.
like 3 and triple colorless. That, you know, triggers your
Oh, yeah.
your
You
colorless
actually got this
permanent
in
triggers
draft?
again. Got it twice. In fact, I think in one deck I had 2 of them.
I played against a person with 2 of them.
Yeah.
That sounds rough.
I wasn't happy about it because I took care of the first one, and then they played the second one, and I
Yeah.
was like, they decked themselves though, so it was okay.
Yeah. But these cards are great. There was another really cool like red white energy deck that I played. The Common Goblin. It's like a red and a white mana. It's called Conduit Goblin. It's a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy, and then at the beginning of combat on your turn, you can pay an energy, give another target creature +1/+0 and haste till end of turn. So this card was like a really good energy conductor, but led to the aggressive like red-white strategies. And you know, I think I won like 2 games off of Aether Revolt, like the actual card Aether Revolt. That's a rare though. So I enjoyed those. I died many times to Scurry of Gremlins, which is the enchantment that makes gremlins and you pay 4 energy to boost your team and give them haste. Card seemed very strong. But yeah, overall, I think it was a great limited environment, at least that I played.
Sick.
And I know we're probably going to talk about this in the detail, but there were multiple packs that I opened up that had like 5 uncommons and 3 rares in them, which is kind of like BS. That shouldn't exist,
Absolutely.
but we've talked about this
it's
plenty
silly.
now. So
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to go back to our episode on play boosters, where we really, they were announced when we really dove into it, all those points still stand. I think it's fair to say. Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So, Hidology, what's your experience been so far? What do you think?
So my overall experience is my initial thoughts. This may change because again, it's just the first impressions and it's just the initial play.
Mm-hmm.
My overall impression is that the Eldrazi decks are way more powerful than everything else. It is imbalanced.
Okay.
So what happens? The only 2 decks that I find that can keep the Eldrazi decks in check are the red-white aggro, which includes that Conduit Goblin, which is the 2/2, which gives haste to the next thing for 1 energy. Hello. He's like, hello.
Love it.
I'm a goblin. So anyway, so the Conduit Goblin does everything you want it to do. It's a 2/2 on 2 that gives you the capacity to give the next 2 things haste. We've seen something similar to that in a bigger body in 1 in the 4/5 Furnace Strider or whatever that gave oil counters, 2 oil counters on it, and then it could give the next 2 things haste. This is more powerful than that because it's an earlier drop, and the early stuff with haste is even more game-changing and pressure-inducing. So, and it's exactly what Boros wants to do. And not only that, but if you don't use those, all of those counters, you then still get the ideal curve out into Scurry of Gremlins, which is one of the strongest cards at uncommon. It does require a little bit of work. You do have to curve out because, again, you get energy only equal to the number of creatures you have in play, so you need the creatures in play. So But even if you hit it on 4 and you just amass the energy for later, you can give the next thing haste and all your creatures +1/+0. So it is a lovely. Each of those signpost common and uncommon pairs work really well together. They're very well designed. You can see the synergies amongst them. They're all really beautiful. This one is, I think, the best of them. For the double colored pairs ones. I'm not talking Eldrazi here. Once you get Scurry, like the ideal curve basically is the little 1/1 hasty goblin that can sack to do 4 damage to a creature. The Boros conduit goblin there. On 3, literally any 3-drop or 2-drop. Doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah.
On 4, Scurry of Gremlins, and on 5, the Spawn Gang dude,
Sure.
that produces 4 bodies. And you don't really care about that. That's if you haven't used the Scurry of, and then something else with energy after that, basically. Because as long as you're producing that many bodies, even if you didn't curve out perfectly with a Scurry, then when you play, right, the 5-drop after that, then you use the Scurry's energy to give those all haste. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage that you're attacking with just off that one card post Scurry. So if anything has still survived from your early turns, there you go. And then you can finish them off by sacrificing, the Eldrazi to ping them to the face.
Yep.
Yeah, those shocks off of Spawn Gang Commander, you can't underestimate those.
Prioritizing the Evolving Wilds type lands for the wedges and stuff is important, not only because it can fix your mana across even your 2 colors, but because it can sack Eldrazi on that particular card. Additionally, in the red-white deck, it gives you landfall for the really crazy 2-drop that has haste, that has landfall battle cry. So it'll give you 2 instances of battle cry if you have those lands. This is a Reckless Pyro Surfer, yeah.
Reckless Pyro Surfer. I got this in that draft deck. This
is
really
a gross card.
It's stupid.
Yeah, it's absolutely dumb. Again, it already has haste. As long as you play it in the land, everything is getting battle cried. So it's really, really a nutty card. And the red-white deck, I think, is one of the, along with the only other one that I think they can keep the Eldrazi decks regularly in check. And again, you have to get a little lucky because the Eldrazi decks actually do have a kill spell, a punch spell that gains them 3 life. And that's a key card in these matchups, is the Eldrazi punch spell. But the only other card, the only other deck that I think they reliably keep the Eldrazi decks in check is the black-red artifact deck. Because it has the new cranial plating, which is cranial ram.
Yeah.
Now, cranial ram is no cranial plating because cranial plating could re-equip at an instant speed. It could just attach itself. Not equip, but attach. But this is already stupid because it comes with a body in and of itself. You don't have to equip it to have it do stuff. There are cards. There's an overperforming common. I knew it was going to be okay, but it does overperform with a sheer number of Eldrazi tokens. There's an artifact that's a 2/3, I think, that pings whenever any other creature comes into play on your side. So I forget what it's called though.
Remember the card?
Oh,
it's in red.
The red artifact creature.
Yeah, 2/3 pings for each creature that enters play. It's that we had a 3/2 that
Molten
did that
Gatekeeper.
in New Capenna, Streets of New Capenna, which was pretty fun. Yeah, Molten Gatekeeper.
Yeah.
That's the one. When it enters the battlefield under your control, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent, and then it has unearth for 1 red. It's just a solid card, and it enables the artifact affinity stuff, and it also just pings for artifacts entering the battlefield, which is and other artifact creatures and creatures in general entering the battlefield under your control. So again, with the Eldrazi spawns, that's just crazy. So one of the ways, so those are the two decks. Anything else I found was not able to compete against the Eldrazi decks. Like black white, anything slightly mid range. If you hit an Eldrazi deck, you were done. Like it was really bad. So blue black, black white, like let's see, red black if you weren't an artifact. Like
Sure.
There's a lot of like mid-rangey builds that like if you weren't green black. So Golgari also couldn't do it because it just relied on getting the counters. It was all about getting counters, and unfortunately it just couldn't go big enough fast enough, even with proliferating your counters, etc. It just didn't do enough fast enough because the Eldrazi were putting out 7 drops on turn 4. So
that's tough to keep up with, sure. Yeah.
That's just, you can't keep up with that with the, I'm getting incremental advantage off my counters. So so Selesnya and Golgari just were outclassed. Even as aggressive as Selesnya can be. And the Golgari has, big removal too. So unconditional removal for the Eldrazi, but it doesn't matter because they still have the little spawns to block, etc.
Right. Yeah.
So
and
what I found was happening, like, was so the strongest pieces of the Eldrazi decks were the Kozilek's Unsealing, which is that uncommon blue enchantment that you were talking about that nets you Eldrazi spawn for 4, 5, and 6 casting cards. They don't have to be Eldrazi, just any creature spell with mana value 4, 5, or 6. You create 2/01, and then you can wrap yourself into the 7 drop that will draw you 3 cards.
Yep.
So that card is just value. The second card, another uncommon that is value there, is Path of Annihilation, which means that it turns all your little Eldrazi, rather than having to sacrifice them for colorless mana, you can just tap them for a mana of any color. Turns them into little Gemhide slivers or whatever it is. So yeah.
Dang.
It's really gross. I was worried about it a little bit because on 4 it doesn't do as much as it could. But it's not like the 4 mana green one where you get to, when you cast it like 5 or greater, you get to discover, I think it is, or something like that. That one's awful. This one's nuts. And the reason is it puts 2 bodies into play. So basically it's like another, Explore the Wilds or whatever it is, where you get to fetch 2 lands and put them into play. But in this case, you get to fetch 2 lands. They tap for mana of any color, and and they're 2 bodies to block with if you need to.
Yeah.
So they are really sick. And most of the Eldrazi's come into play and produce more of these anyway. So you're not only ramping, but then you're going to replace these bodies that still add the mana of any color.
Wow.
So Path of Annihilation, Kozilek's Unsealing, already dumb. Those are just 2 enabling pieces for the Eldrazi deck that most other decks don't really want them. They're still good, but like a lot of the Eldrazi decks need them and they just crush.
Right.
So as far as the obviously the rare Eldrazi that pumps due to the Line Breaker that we talked about earlier.
Yes.
That's great. I got to use that. It was one of my only rares in the earliest draft. But
if you're not going to get many rares,
it's
that's a good one.
Blah blah blah. You get the idea. If you can do it with tramplers, it's even better. But I do want to talk about some of the commons that really make a difference here. Writhing Chrysalis is among the top commons, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It is Gruul. It is an Eldrazi for 2 and a red and a green. And it puts 2 O1s into play, spawns into play. And whenever you sacrifice one of those spawns, it gets +1/+1 counters. So not only does it grow whenever you do the thing that you were going to do anyway, meaning cast a big spell using your Eldrazi spawn, but it enables everything. It has reach as well to stop your opposing creatures from getting in. So one of the ways that you could beat Eldrazi, the huge Eldrazi before, is by flying over them. This negates that possibility. There's so many Eldrazi with reach in this format.
Yeah.
That was one of the critical problems with big Eldrazi is, the flyers could get in. But that was also one of the biggest ways that you held the Eldrazi decks in check was flyers. Now, like, every third Eldrazi has frickin' reach. Or tap stuff down.
Seems that way.
So,
It's almost like all the cards having ward.
Yeah.
Similar vibe. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really pretty bad because they've addressed the weaknesses of the Eldrazi decks, but the weaknesses of the Eldrazi decks were what making other decks playable in the limited format.
Right.
And so this is a problem. So this card is very, very dumb.
And I can second that. I've had the opportunity to play with it. The other thing about it, the threat of activation. If you're attacking with this, even if they have what looks like a favorable block, they know you can just sack the spawn, even if you're not using the mana, just to put counters on this thing and just make those blocks look awful. It's kind of amazing.
It's so bad.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's really, really painful. I think this is one of the best commons, and I think it should be heavily picked, even though it's 2 colors. Splashing in this is not hard because of all of those colorless, add colorless / sack for 1 of 3 colors lands.
Yeah.
And a few others of the double-faced cards. I'll add 2 colors, so it's really quite easy to do that. The double-faced cards, as always, are really high picks, just because they are value in a land slot, which is really, really important. We knew this. These are things that I've gone over. These aren't things that were news to me. These are things that we've gone over in the first look at the set on stream, which those are all up on YouTube as VODs. If people want to check those out. But I'm certain that other people who were doing first looks have also figured this out. Like, it's really very clear. We knew this as of Zendikar Rising. When we had our first MDFCs. So there's just really high picks because you get, and even with this, it's even more so because it's double lands, like it's dual type lands. It's crazy.
Yeah.
On many of them. Some of them are just 1. That's fine. It's still like, and they can take, on average, I think someone calculated that it's approximately, for a tap land, it's about 0.4 of a land. For an untapped land, one that can come into play untapped, it's about 45% of a land, I think, or something like that. So if you have like 2, they're roughly equivalent to a land. Or is it 75? I forget. It might be 75. I think it's 75 for untapped. I could go look it up again. But anyway, they if you're calculating, you put these in place of a land oftentimes because it gets you it is a potential land and it gets you value out of a land slot that you wouldn't have otherwise. So you're taking these very highly, even if they're not particularly spells that will synergize as well as they might in your deck.
Totally. A tapped land that can produce 2 colors. If you want both colors, that's something to consider anyway. The fact
it's already good in limited.
Get a bonus spell that may or may not be good.
You have to pay attention to how many tap lands you're putting in your, really aggressive little Boros deck.
Absolutely.
But
right.
Of course.
Other than that, right? These are really high picks. So, and we knew they would be. So there's that. So none of these are really like huge revelations, obviously. I want to talk a bit about Glaring Fleshraker.
Ooh. Like that card.
It is
I like that name. Anyway.
It is a similar effect to the little artifact that we talked about.
Yeah,
but it generates creatures to ping your opponents with.
Whenever you cast a colorless spell, you make a spawn. And then, whenever another colorless
creature artifacts that are colorless, that counts all your Eldrazi's that with Devoid.
All the Devoids,
It counts colorless Eldrazi, like the other ones that are actually colorless, then don't have a color identity. So, but not only that, when you cast, you create the O1, so it's going to ping for 1 anyway, and then your Eldrazi enters the battlefield, and almost all of the Eldrazi's produce more of the spawn anyway. I've had 2 of these in play in one of the games, and I've just pinged the hell out of the opponent. Just crush them with these.
I don't doubt it.
This is again reasons why you should prioritize those colorless lands, the lands that produce colorless, because again you can cast this only with that colorless mana or with the Eldrazi spawns. It depends on how many of those you have. Speaking of that, one of the cards that I knew was going to be undervalued and that I was therefore able to get a lot of, and that I said this is a sick card, Glimpse the Impossible. Glimpse the Impossible is a 3-mana spell that says exile the top 3 of your library. You can play those this turn. If you don't play them, you get an 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token for everything you didn't play. So basically, if you don't play your 3 spells, if you cast this on 3, you don't play the 3 spells you get. They go right to your graveyard. It's a way to fill your graveyard. Number 1, that's valuable.
Sure.
If you don't play those spells, you get the 3 Eldrazi spawn tokens, and on 4, you can cast a 7-drop.
Yeah,
So,
this reminds me a lot of Visions of Phyrexia from Brothers War, but that was a 4-drop enchantment that you only got it once per turn.
yeah.
This is all in one go on turn 3.
This is all in one go on turn 3. But not only that, but it's also good late, because if you flood out, you're getting 3 freaking spells. You can choose which to cast, and you can choose which give you a body. It's
I love this.
sick card at common.
Yeah.
And I was getting past them regularly, and they enabled some really stupid turn 4s. And also, they enabled me to win really late game. One game I was flooded out, drew this, crushed them.
Love it.
It's a gross card, and I don't understand how it was printed in common.
Yeah.
Because it draws cards for red, which red already has a hard time doing. It makes 3 bodies in case you need blockers. It makes 3 bodies in case you want to ramp to 7 on 4. Like, it's so dumb for the Eldrazi deck. And for other decks too. Like, it's mostly like it's the dumbest in the Eldrazi, but it's still dumb in other things.
Yeah, so scoop these up in your drafts before everybody else gets wise. Yeah.
It's not going to last long for it to be undervalued, I believe.
Right.
Sure.
Remember also that you can play this and then play Scurry of Genius, and that's 3 energy. Right? Because that's 3 bodies.
That's right.
So, it's just dumb. It's I mean, it's just a common that people overlook because it's a red card with a lot of text.
Right.
Which we tend to overlook and think is bad. But like this one's crazy. It is sorcery speed, of course. If it weren't, I think it would be rare.
Yeah.
But because you could play at EOT, it was so stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, this is a dumb card that I think people undervalue, and I think that will change. Breaker of Creation is one I want to talk about as well. So it does cost a lot of mana. It does cost 6 and 2 colorless. But as soon as you can cast it, remember 6 and 2 colorless is 1 turn. It's turn 5 off of that glimpse, right? And it's earlier if you have other ramp before that. So it's turn 4 if you go like a 2-mana Eldrazi that produces a spawn, and then the Glimpse the Impossible. It's turn 4. And remember that it counts lands when it gains 1 life for each colorless permanent you control when it enters the battlefield. The Hexproof from each color and Annihilator too. I hate that they brought back Annihilator in Limited. I hate it. It's stupid. These are never going to be played in Constructed for the most part. And why would you therefore bring back Annihilator? It's such a feel-bad mechanic. Yeah. That said, I've been having fun with the Eldrazi decks, but again, it makes the Eldrazi decks miserable to play against, especially in that mid-range stuff. Because they're ramping out an 8/4 with Hexproof from each color and Annihilator 2 on turn 5.
I mean, did the Eldrazi in this set needed an Annihilator Honey Mammoth with Hexproof? Like,
it's more than a honey. I gained 10 life once when I played it. It was just early, even when I played it early. Right?
That's nuts.
Because again, it counts lands. Remember?
Those right, of course. Too. Yeah.
So So and then if this attacks and your opponent has remember your spell can't target it, right? Unless it's a devoid spell. There are a couple devoid red burn spells in this format. But unless you have one of those, what you're doing is double blocking. And if they have any removal for your creatures, you're gonna have to annihilate 2 again the next turn and double block it again. or block it with your
Yikes.
4-drop, and hope that they
Right.
don't have removal for that 4-drop again. So this card can really end games quite quickly. It feels a little unfair if they get it down early. I'm not gonna lie.
Sure.
Yeah. So again, what Eldrazi are doing is just ramping to a 7-drop or higher or whatever that you just don't want to see, and you just have to hope that somehow they stumble. It's weird.
Yeah.
So I think right now the Eldrazi are just the deck to be in, no matter what pairing of Eldrazi colors it is. Some sort of teamer usually is the strongest, but and that may even out as people realize that it's the strongest and you'll be fighting for it. But there are enough of them at common and uncommon that are powerful enough that I think that it may not even out as much as one would hope. And it feels imbalanced, this format so far. So there is that. Now, that said, there's a rare that I would like to take issue with. There's lots of rares that I take issue with, but this one in particular makes me upset. So, the Psychic Frog.
The Psychic Frog.
I understand the Psychic Frog has a mythical bazaar.
So, the Psychic Frog is a blue-black, so Dimir colors. Blue-black, 1/2. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, draw a card. Discard a card, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Exile 3 cards from your graveyard. It gains flying until end of turn. So, this card, they took a look at Wild Mongrel and said, no. This card, which was, nigh banned in various times, it was so stupid in limited and in constructed. Psychotog, right?
Psychotog's a classic, and clearly
they look at those and they're like, no, we don't want them to get temporary pluses. We wanted it to actually be a +1/+1 counter, like Lotleth Troll.
Yep.
But Lotleth Troll, I think you had to discard a creature, not just a card.
Which is a pretty significant difference, yeah.
But they want that. You get a +1/+1 counter when you discard a card. It's going to help refill your hand anyway by hitting.
Yep.
So, because when it hits a player or planeswalker, not just the player, because oftentimes to get these effects, you'd have to hit the player. But if it's a planeswalker, you draw a card. Yeah. So you've got more +1/+1 counter fodder. And not only that, but when you discard these cards...
To be fair, though, which of course in limited that doesn't matter. But not if it's a battle, just saying. But anyway, that's for us janky constructed players to worry about. But anyway, yeah.
But traditionally in the past, it's been player.
Yes.
Only.
Yeah.
That's my point. Whether or not it's planeswalker or battle in addition, it's a planeswalker.
Exactly. Attacking the planeswalker, you had the downside of not getting those saboteur effects.
Exactly.
That was just part of the deal,
right. Now you still get the upside of that. Now, not only that, but as you're discarding cards to put +1/+1 counters on it, you can exile 3 cards. Those cards, you're filling up your graveyard so you can give it evasion. So even if they could finally block your creature on the ground, your giant creature on the ground, and chump it or do something like that, nope, it now is flying until end of turn.
But doesn't that mean it's a good thing that all those Eldrazi have reached now to anyway, sorry. I'm just
one would only wish, but no.
Yeah.
So this card I actually happened to hit 3 separate times on turn 2 on opponent's side in the early access event. Of course, I did play for 17.5 hours, but still,
But still, yeah.
But still, this is not an okay card. There's no reason this should be allowed. Make it go away. This is not okay. This is one of the only reasons to run the blue-black. This goes in your blue-black Eldrazi deck if you're doing a blue-black Eldrazi deck.
Yeah.
The black isn't normally the Eldrazi color that well. I don't like the Eldrazi in the black, but as much. But the blue is still good enough. So.
Oh yeah.
And if you want to run this card or splash this card, it's totally splashable.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I don't like this card. I don't want it near me anymore.
That's totally fair.
I haven't had it on my side of the board yet, but I imagine it'll feel a little bit bad. But yeah, so that's a card that shouldn't exist. You're welcome.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
This
That's
card
fair.
was Nutter Butters when it was played against me every time.
Yes.
There was no point in continuing the game. My creature will never
Exactly,
be
it's
bigger
just
than it. I will never be able to attack through it, and there's no
As
beneficial
long
blocks.
as you didn't have unconditional removal, like I only had damage spells, and it kept getting too big. There was, or it could easily get too big if I even tried, and then the game was over. Like if
You basically have to have like the one double black card that blows up a creature or planeswalker and gains life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The murder or the
Flare of Malice
double
or
black
whatever,
uncommon dual faced card.
My goodness.
Like there are just some decks that just see that come down on turn 2 and like, cool, I lose. Which is what happened to me, because invariably whenever I played against this, I didn't have the unconditional removal.
Mm-hmm.
There's an unconditional piece in white that's a sort of fixed Swords to Plowshares, where it kills something for 2 if it's a 3-drop or less, and then you pay 5, I think, to exile something with 3 or over. Anything, rather. Not just 3 or over, but anything. Any creature.
Okay.
And then they gain life equal to its power, I think. But, and then black has a couple murders and stuff. And they...
Expel the Unworthy? Is that the one?
Yeah. And the white has the pacifism dog effect, dog umbra effect.
Oh, yeah. The dog umbra? Yeah. Yeah, so
but,
there are some ways, but to be fair,
we're unconditional removal in other colors than what I was playing.
Yeah, but to be fair, we're having to come up with individual examples to deal with this.
Exactly.
Which I think proves the point.
It's just
yeah.
So my initial, just to sum up, my initial impression is that it is imbalanced in favor of the Eldrazi decks. I hope that will even out. I doubt it, just because it's so broad as a potential deck. I think the only things that can keep it in check are the Artifact Black Red and the Boros decks. I think people will fight over those for that same reason. I'm really worried that the Golgari and Selesnya and Orzhov decks will just not be doable. Like, obviously, if those get completely left alone, you might get a crazy deck version of that, but I still think even the craziest versions of that are too mid-range and they get outclassed by the Eldrazi decks that they're going to find. You may win the first 4 rounds, but in these leagues, but then you'll hit the decks that got the Eldrazi stuff, all the actual Eldrazi stuff, and you will lose the final rounds, in theory. So that's just like, you can get lucky. You obviously can get, unlucky either way. Like on the Eldrazi stuff, this is just like averages and general patterns, as opposed to every time this is going to happen. But that was my initial impression of this format, and I think it will be difficult to even out, given the breadth and level of power at common and uncommon of the Eldrazi decks. You don't need the rares for them. In fact, some of them you just don't want the rares. Like of the Eldrazi Titans, Kozilek is unplayable in limited, in my opinion. I will try to run the other. I will only try to run. If I get the frog, I'll try to run Emrakul.
Sure.
Because it gives you a discard outlet.
Now we're talking.
But I will actually try to run Ulamog. Ulamog, I think, is actually playable in the limited. 10 mana is doable, and it is a very powerful effect for what you pay. Yes, Kozilek is less. It's at 9, but it's not good enough for paying 9. There's Eldrazi at 7 that you'd rather play over that.
Yeah. It's funny. I know a lot of people don't, are kind of down on Kozilek, and I think in Constructed, there's definitely a place for Kozilek. I think that ability
Constructed definitely,
can be very strong.
Once you're producing 9 mana in Constructed, your opponent may still have a full hand that you want to manifest, as opposed to giving them their really powerful instants and sorceries. Right? Because they won't be able to turn instants and sorceries face up. They'll just be 2/2s that are useless on a board that has Kozilek and a bunch of other big, colorless creatures. But and you manifesting 2, right? But in limited, once you get to 9 mana, usually you're not going to have two cards left in hand to manifest at all, and you're not going to want to give your opponent 2 creatures. You'd rather they give them whatever spells they have in hand, right? Or enchantments.
So I mean, if you're in a lucky situation, you have a whole bunch of spawn lying around and Kozilek can buff them. Okay, great, but like that's so narrow.
But usually you're going to use those spawn to cast the Kozilek. So
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, meanwhile, Ulamog, I feel like we have the exact opposite scenario where in Constructed, where removal is kind of so ubiquitous, or it's so easy to prevent Ulamog from really doing the thing, maybe he's not as strong as he first appears. Meanwhile, yeah, in Limited, if this hits the board, what are you going to do? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not only are they like having to sacrifice 2 permanents to target it, which is really important for removal, so it's already netting you card advantage, but they're also exiling half their library rounded up, which means that they have a limited number of cards with which to beat you after that. So, yeah. And the Annihilator, again, I hate Annihilator. I still, in Limited, just doesn't feel like it's necessary. That's just,
Right.
You can put it on the Mythics, fine, but it's on freaking Uncommons. So...
Yeah, this card's so fascinating too, because people talk about, oh, it could be like Annihilator 15 or whatever, and I'm people. I do that too. Like, it's fun to theorycraft those kind of things, but in reality, okay, if this is, I'm just gonna say this, only a 10/10 with Annihilator 3, like,
yeah,
I'll settle for that all day. That's fine. Yeah. It's
and with Ward,
still
sacrifice 2 permanents. So again, you're just going to be up cards is the thing. Or value. Now, if they have 1 million lands and they just sacrifice 2 lands to target this, at least you have again limited the amount of resources in their library and the turns they have to kill you. Again, you can get unlucky. This isn't a literal I win the game card.
No.
But it's a good card. So, and it's something that you can actually potentially cast at 10 mana.
Fun fact, in Timeless, during the early access, I did take I want to say 3 attacks from this and survived. Shout out to Strider Stone, who's doing a reanimate Ulamog package, and I think it was 10. I think they were Annihilator 10s. Well, I was running Nadu Scoot Swarm, so let's go. That was the only way I could make that work.
Villain in that circumstance.
Oh yeah, no, neither of us were the good guy. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, that's my initial impression of this. I'm hoping that it evens out. I'm not holding my breath about it though. And I think there's some crazy rares, crazy mythics, crazy uncommons, crazy commons. I think the play boosters are as always a detriment to Limited in terms of, skill at building and skill at navigating and negotiating games. Because, if you just have a card that wins, I read the game, what are you doing? With Limited anyway. But there are lots of interesting decisions to be made when you sacrifice spawns, when you keep them, how you play there. As long as you're playing the commons and uncommons, it's pretty fun. And there isn't anything that I can say bad about, like the cool mechanics that they're putting in here, because they put everything in the kitchen sink in here. So there's a lot to think about, which I really like. But again, I wish it were more balanced.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Yeah, the non-Eldrazi cards do look a little out of place compared to, what some of the Eldrazi are doing. So, yep. Interesting stuff. Yeah, thank you for that rundown. That was awesome. And
absolutely.
I gotta say, given my limited experience, to be fair, given my limited experience,
pun intended there. Yeah,
I mean a little bit. Yeah. I have to be honest. I don't have any evidence to the contrary to what you're saying. Like, that all checks out as far as I could tell. Yeah. That said,
very, very strong. I could say at least the drafts are like kind of enjoyable to draft somewhat, outside of, like I said earlier, 5 uncommons plus 3 rares in a pack is like very poo poo. But it's really bad. I know we talked about this in length on the OTJ episode.
Part of what that means is there's no signaling amongst the commons.
No, none.
And some of them are doubled, and you don't even know what's going on. It really makes drafting less skill based in terms of like reading signals, figuring out where the correct lane is, etc.
Is that why I'm feeling more comfortable at it? Because I can flub it a little easier? Yeah,
you can. You can.
Yeah, that could be it. But yeah, which it is a bummer. I think we can all agree that losing that is definitely unfortunate. Which I think is also a shame, because a lot of the commons and uncommons are really interesting as far as their
They're really
designs and are
interesting to
crazy
play.
powerful.
The decisions that you get to
Mhm.
make matter because you have time to make them because it's a less powerful format overall than constructed.
Yeah.
So like
Exactly.
you have time to make the decisions matter. And the incremental advantage is key. And then you've navigated to that. And then, yeah, literally there were 2 posts online recently where Maro and Melissa DeTora said, if you want to get better at Magic, play Draft for these reasons,
Mm-hmm.
which then were negated by booster, like the play boosters.
Right.
Because it takes
Right.
skill in deck in reading signals and deck and evaluating card strength,
Mhm.
and then deck building and then sequencing and so on and so
Yeah.
forth, and navigating for incremental advantage, and you're just like, that's not here at all.
Yeah, no, and
And the
it's
play
so funny because
boosters are
all
just
of that,
negating most of that.
yeah, sequencing and combat, the skills. I know I am very much aware at how much those have improved for myself since I started drafting now years ago. But like, when you're just doing constructed, you have non-games or you have matchups where you don't have a chance. In limited, I very rarely do you walk away from a game going like, well, that was just a bad matchup. I didn't really have a chance. Every
Right.
now and then your opponent plays the Toxtrol and you're just like, well, come on, man. But like, that's, those are really
Yeah,
the
it used to
equivalent
be that way.
experiences.
Sometimes they play a
Yeah, it
frog on
used to
turn
be.
2 and you're just like, I'm out.
Yeah, now there's the frog on too. But even then, it comes down to individual cards. You have the bomb cards, and just if that hits and I don't have an answer, well, here we are.
At this point, it's like, question is really how many?
Yeah,
Or
how
in the
many are
back.
there?
And
How
there's
many?
just so many
Mhm.
more of them with play boosters, and they show up more frequently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
It really is.
Anyway,
Yes.
we hope that Wizards fixes that. We don't have, again, another time we're not holding our breath because we don't want to die.
Not really. Well, and on top of that, not only do we have all these rares and mythics in the packs that we normally wouldn't have, but now we even have the face commanders not only coming to Arena like some we've seen before, but now they're literally in the play boosters.
I can play
Yeah.
Ulalek and copy my Eldrazi spells.
Oh, God.
Yeah, straight up. So yeah, the fused atrocity.
The one
You can
I
have-
got was the like blue-green one, and I had to pass it because, of course, it's awful. Because there aren't man lands in limited.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because it wasn't designed for limited. It was designed for commander.
Yeah. So why is it in my limited packs? Come on.
Great question. Yeah. The other one, there was a
It was like
yeah,
for
the
every
one-
time you cast your commander, and I'm like, it's not gonna be a commander in my draft pack.
Right.
Like, I have none of these. Yeah, like the other one I went up against during early access, I went up against like Corum the Undertaker at one point.
Oh yeah.
And it's like Jund Mill Theft? What? Like that's not
Wow.
a limited thing at all. What is this? Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Gross.
Right. It is a good card, to be fair, but it's
Ew.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't want to play against that.
weird. It was weird to see it show up.
I'll
Like
play against it with
looks
my
like it doesn't
Eldrazi
fit.
deck, and I'll kick its butt. But like,
Well, exactly. There you go. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah,
but anything
had the
else, that's
Jeskai-
gonna have a rough time.
I had the
Oh,
Jeskai
goodness.
Energy Commander that copies creatures for energy. And
Right.
there were multiple games where I was able to copy that 2/3 Molten Gatekeeper and just put multiple into play and deal damage every time they entered, and it was fantastic. And
Sounds pretty cool.
we could do it on curve, like Molten Gatekeeper on 3, this creature
Yeah.
on 4, GG's. Unless
Yeah,
you
what can
killed
you do?
unless you killed Satya, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Satya Aetherflux genius. Going to be a
like,
very
this
fun
card
commander
also
for a
has
lot of
menace.
people. Yeah. Menace and haste.
And haste.
Sure, why not?
Reasons.
For reasons. Well, because you want, because fast mana in Commander's a thing. In order to keep up, your 4-drop commanders should have haste. In Commander, did I mention it's Commander? In Commander, that haste is fine. In Commander. Anyway, yeah. Gnarly.
Questionable decisions by Wizards.
I don't know why. Well, I do know why, for purposes of like not having to make people buy collector boosters to get a couple commander cards. But
Sure.
like
Yeah.
in
But
the
you could
standard
just buy
sets,
the commander decks. Like,
Right.
That's what commander is. Don't put it in my shit.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, to put that blunt, yes.
Yeah.
If you do put it in my stuff, at least make it viable and limited as an interesting
Right.
card. Like,
Mhm.
what's the
'cause-
blue-green one that I got? Like, that one's just not. There's no
Oh yeah, the one that puts everything counters on stuff. Yeah.
something like that. Like,
Oh yeah, Omo, Queen of Vesuva. Pulling
Is
it up
that
now.
what it
Yeah.
is?
Or like Disa the Restless, the other one. Like, how many Lurgoyfs are you gonna be milling in your limited deck? Like,
yeah.
but yeah, Omo,
Right.
Queen of Vesuva is a 1/5 for 3. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you put an everything counter on up to one target land
Oh
or
no, this was another
creature.
one that actually referenced commander for each time
Oh, it
you
does?
cast your commander.
Wow. Was
And it was like
yeah,
and
because
it
this one is
pumped
just
man lands.
it just
I think,
creates
or something like that.
Wow.
It was just
Okay,
like a
let me-
card from commander, and I was like, this is not. Why is this here? It's just
Is
gonna
it-
get passed around.
Oh,
Why is it taking up a rare slot for? That's it. That's
Yoti
it. 2/4.
Moag Ancient. 2/4 for 4.
Yeah, Moag Ancient enters the
when
battlefield.
it-
Create a 1/1. Yeah.
Yeah, you create a 1/1 Forest Dryad land, so you get spotted one land, but yeah, for each time you've cast your... Oh, so never mind, you don't, because yeah, for each time you've cast your commander for the command zone. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's...
You haven't, so you don't
Yeah,
even get.
and at the
your
beginning of each
1/1
combat,
reinforced.
land creatures you control get +X until end of turn, where X is its power.
Yeah.
Is there
I
a
was
way
like,
to
cool,
make...
passing this card?
Yeah, are there
That was my nice
any
rare
ways
slot,
to
cool.
create a land creature in this limited environment? Like, I don't think so. Yeah. No creature lands, no like random green spell that can animate a land, like anything.
Exactly. So, like, why is this in here?
So you can, so that your mythic slot can be taken up with a 2/4 for 4.
Yeah. Great. Weird.
I don't even know that it fills the mythic slot. I think it just takes one of the other possible slots of the 4 rares and or mythic slots.
Right, it's the
Ugh,
bonus
vomit.
sheet
Yeah.
slot or whatever. Yeah, I don't get it. I because this was clearly they clearly just took these and put them into the play booster. Like this was
Yes.
I don't believe any of the playtesters who were working on the limited environment. I would be shocked if
they were like, yeah, this is the card that synergizes really well with my environment. Yeah.
Yeah, I would be shocked if early in the design of this set, these were in the draft pools that they were testing.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if that was the case. Maybe they ran a few tests late in development or something, but like, this clearly doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. Anyway, yeah.
Anyway, so
Wild.
we'll
Wild.
hope that they make some.
Yep.
I don't know. I keep hoping for better results, but. I do, like I said, I really love all the mechanics that they're doing. I think all the individual cards are interesting, and how the limited play, works, could be interesting. But hence, did you just bite my toe, Cat?
Mine was starting to pat me, and so I had to pick her up.
Yeah, and actually a couple of times during this recording, my cat has hopped up on my lap. So yeah. So this new segment, this is the cat cast.
It's the cat cam, yeah.
Welcome.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
In case you ever wanted to see any of our cats, we do live stream on Twitch, and so we may or may not have cat cams ready to go.
That is the thing. So yes.
Yeah.
And all those links are in the description, by the way, anybody out there. So feel free to pop on out, say hello, and meet all of our kitties. Yeah, it's a good time. Yeah, our cats are all our co-hosts, let's be honest. Yeah.
Hi, Floof.
Or it's just their streams and we're playing Magic,
Oh, 100%.
How
yeah.
it is.
Mm-hmm. Adorable.
Oh my god. So, you're biting my toes. Can you tell
Love
wizards to make better decisions?
Yes.
Come on, Helder. Let them know. Yeah.
2 maximum rare or mythics per pack, please.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be the occasional bonus rare.
Yeah, I was fine.
In the foil slot.
I was fine if you could get like a foil and a rare.
Mm-hmm.
But like the foils could be common and uncommon too, so that was fine.
Right.
All right. But like,
yeah.
Now that you can get up to 4, it's not good.
Even because that would just I don't know, and it was special when it happened. It was special.
They're called rare, but because they're supposed to be rare.
Wait, what? I'm not following.
They're supposed to the rarity, the level of rarity is supposed to correspond to the frequency with which they occur, which makes logical sense. But when you have equally as many uncommons and commons, are they really commons?
I mean, it does
Shower
actually.
thoughts.
We're on pace to get to a point where the commons are more rare than the rares if this
I know.
continues, and that's a silly thought.
And the mythics
honestly.
are like it occurring at rare frequency at this point. So,
which is wild.
ugh, gross. Anyway,
cool. So, yeah.
Well,
no, this.
I look
this
forward to
is awesome.
drafting
Yeah.
this more. I'll have further thoughts after we draft this for a little bit. So
Mhm.
maybe next week we can do a little like, has it
Heck yeah.
panned out so
Yeah.
far
Oh,
as
yeah.
we wish?
And then, regular
uh,
check-ins as we get more reps in, I think is very important. I
Exactly.
definitely want to do
Yeah.
that.
So it'll seem good there, and then we can get further updates also on the constructed and how the meta is sort of shaping up right
Mhm.
immediately after release. Obviously, we won't get a full sort of sense until the Pro Tour stuff's right. But,
right. Yeah. Who knows? I have no doubt that in many formats, like I'm definitely curious to follow what's going on in modern. Like that's going to get interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a feeling, modern, historic, timeless, they're all going to see a pretty sizable shakeup as a result of this. And it'll be really interesting to see. Yeah, it'll be really interesting.
I wonder
to
if
see
we'll have
what
like an
falls out the other
Eldrazi
end.
summer like we did.
Nadu
then.
summer. Nadu summer.
Nadu is, yeah. Nadu's unfair. I'm just going to point blank. Nadu Winged Wisdom.
Nadu's stupid.
This card could have been fixed in about 24 different ways, and they just didn't.
yeah.
It's just
And none
it's
of them were taken.
None of them were taken.
The way
it's
not
insane.
traveled.
Nah, this card is beyond busted.
Yeah.
And if you don't agree with me, just think about this for a second. Any of the lands that come in off this trigger enter untapped.
True.
What is that? Anyway,
More importantly, if you don't agree, there is a comment section below on
there
YouTube.
sure is. Let us know.
Yeah, let us
and
know
you can
your
tell us
thoughts
how
on
very wrong we
Eldrazi,
are.
Totally.
and Nadu summer.
Yeah, and for the record, if you like Eldrazi, if you like the play boosters, if you like Nadu, you are totally entitled to your opinion.
This is fine.
But please vocally let us know feed that algorithm, let the people know. And while you're there, go ahead and like and subscribe so you can keep an eye on upcoming episodes where we talk more about this stuff. And yeah, and on our way out, I definitely want to kick it over to my illustrious host here. Let the people know where they can find you. So, Headology, let's start with you. So, what are you up to these days, and where can people find you doing all the drafty things?
Well, I am doing all the drafty things on Twitch, and I co-stream on YouTube. And then I also do edited videos for YouTube and box openings and drafts and tournaments and things. And I am on Twitter and social media things a little bit.
Yes.
And yeah, mostly being a crazy person and doing all the things that I can just to see more cool, awesome people in my chat and online.
Wouldn't have it any other way. And there's some awesome people out there, if I may say.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of awesome people, Carlos, C. Forever Jr., how's it going, dude? Where can people find you?
Oh, hello. Yes.
Yeah, hello.
You can find Luna and I live on Twitch like 4 to 5 nights a week. I normally take the evening slot, so like I do like an 8:30 to 12:30 gig over there. Mostly standard, but occasionally folks have me play decks of other formats. Try to climb the ladder each season playing viewer decks, almost exclusively except on Mondays, where we do Metagame Monday, and we hit it every month. So, viewer brews are really sweet to play. And you can also find me on the other socials, whether that be Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, so on and so forth. Since Modern Horizons 3 is a new set that's out, typically I open like a collector booster box and do like little short 1-minute videos of the pack openings. So that's happening right now, especially over on TikTok and Instagram. So check it out. See all the cool cards I've been pulling lately, because one of them was this Sorin House of House Markov. Karlov.
Baby Sorin.
Markov. Sorin House
so
of Markov. And I'm going to build a commander deck out of that card because it seems really sweet. And I'll also be at Command Fest Atlanta this weekend coming up. So if anybody's going to that, I will be down there jamming some sweet commander games.
Heck yeah, dude. You love to see it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm on the Twitches, twitch.tv/hamlex42, Monday through Friday, also doing viewer decks, doing viewer battles as well. And this week I'm going to be drafting more, which I normally don't do. I'm usually constructed brew stuff because I love trying to build weird, goofy machines with bad parts and see if we can make them work. And so if that sounds like fun, Come check it out. But yeah, this week I'm going to be drafting a lot because MH3, honestly, my draft experience, well, maybe I'm just on the correct side of the imbalance because I've been enjoying it so far. So we're going to see if we can ride that.
Limited era.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, hey, two shots, 2 trophies. No big deal. Just saying.
That's
so, yeah, hopefully that luck can continue.
Rest on your laurels, or you can come back.
Exactly. I can retire undefeated, or we can. Well, there was 1 loss in there, but anyway, like I can retire with my trophies, or I can keep going, and I'm gonna keep going because it's really fun. So, and I'm also on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, doing all those things, doing silly skits. If you want to see me with a comically large cigar, talking in an accent, and that I'm not sure if it's supposed. I think it's somewhere between like Chicago and Boston. Or New York. I don't even know. It fluctuates. And so if you want to find out what accent, what region I'm in at any moment doing that character, you can find it on all the social medias, Instagram, TikTok, all that jazz. So anyway, and YouTube. YouTube Shorts is actually like the most popular place for that stuff. Anyway. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Yeah, Headology, Carlo, thank you. We appreciate you. Oh, my goodness.
Thanks for having us.
Dear listener, dear viewer, thank you for being here. Until next time, we'll catch you. Well, stay good to each other. We'll see you later.
See you later.
And I'll have a proper sign up on these.